Hello, and today we'll be playing a new visual novel called Graven. Was it Graven? Anyway, so this is a story made by the creator of Light My Way. And this story takes place in the world of Light My Way, so Lucian, Darius, and Fabian, they do exist in this world, but this story here is completely separate from them. So, since the creator of Light My Way made this, I decided to give it a look. And this is a much darker story. It's much darker and more depressing, so I'm gonna go ahead and start and see what this is about. We're all going to die. He's thinking that as he looks onto the coffin that's lowering into the cold, waiting summer ground. He can't get rid of this reflex anymore. The words are stuck in his head, and repeating them seems to be the only way to process the groaning sounds the wood makes when it reaches the grave's bottom. The ropes get pulled up, and the snow they make fluttering in the paws of the pallbearers rings deep into Rowan's head. For a fleeting moment, he remembers her paws guiding his, teaching him how to tie a knot. Not too tight, though. Just enough that it holds when you need it. The way she would hold him when he needed it most. We're all going to fucking die. That one different word that mixed itself in between his thoughts jogs him back to reality. He's looking around at the gloomy headstones up above at the cloudy morning. Then as his paws that are clinging onto two roses, their petals almost crushed into his grip. The cemetery, the folk around him, the gray sky all take shape in front of him as if fading into reality from a blurry oblivion. The cold ground beneath his feet, the biting wind on his face failed at their attempt to bring him back to the now. There's a friend who came from a few cities away and drove for a second time in 2 weeks to see Rowan. He visited a week ago when Rowan asked him to see his mother while she was still in the hospital. The second time today. I'm here. The words fly past Rowan. I can't hear his friend anymore. Once the casket reached its lowest point, everything became muted. He looks at Cosman, but it's like watching someone speak underwater. He's not doing this on purpose, but right this moment he's broken. And truth be told, he doesn't want to come back. Why would he ever want to come back to a reality of loneliness? To a world where his loving parent, his best friend, the only folk who ever stood by him, is gone. He looks around when a paw is placed on his shoulder, this time making sense of the figure in front of him. Oh, he's here. Can you say a few words to her, please? I didn't plan on leaving without paying my respects. The dog takes a few steps toward the grave while Rowan looks on, trying to make out what Cosman is saying. There's no reason for it, really, but Rowan needs something, anything to grab his attention so as not to cry again. The beaver next to him Chobi is doing his best to console Rowan, but there's little he can actually do when he can't say a word. He tried opening his mouth to talk, perhaps, but nothing came out. His eyes keep darting between the grave, the exit gate, and Rowan's face. Chobi's first funeral experience is grimmer than he expected. His whiskers tremble as his paws shake while hugging Rowan. The beaver desperately wanted all to stop, but the beaver desperately wants it all to stop, to be rid of all of this pain and hurt that he has never felt, and now, experiencing this last goodbye that Rowan's going through, he never wants to feel again. He's still hugging the hyena, holding him tight, but all he can think of is how to run away from all this unforgiving sorrow. At least that's what Rowan's mind is telling him. Chobi had been like the little brother Rowan never had. Cheerful, well-meaning, but absolutely terrible and emotional situations. The made-up scenarios never stop. They come in waves, one on top of the other, not giving him any respite in all the madness of his chaotic feelings. The sound of the coffin placed on the ground echoes back again into Rowan's ears. The creak of the cheap casket wood still twisting in like a knife vibrating deep in his chest. Chobi manages to let go of Rowan as if his purpose in life has been abruptly ended. The beaver is struck down, eyes red with all the pain he's holding in. He's at the brink of bursting into tears, but there's resilience to be had in the ones who need to be there for their loved ones. The strong hug he gave Rowan was just as important for himself not to let the overwhelming sadness cross his already shaky limit. He's constantly thinking that he should say something, anything, but still the words won't come out of his mouth. Rowan takes a reluctant step towards the grave, then another. The smell of the wet ground envelops him, bringing back the walks through the forest, talking to her on the phone, asking how she's doing, if she's getting better. But now he finds himself in front of the unforgiving eternity that's awaiting us all, a small box and a hole in the ground. He drops the two roses onto the grave, one from himself and one from his brother. He considered for a slight second not to let go of the second one, but what would his mother think of him if he didn't? He turns around to tell the others that they can throw dirt or flowers, whichever they prefer. The custom of flowers on a casket isn't that of Kazul, so the folk attending raise a brow at that, but Rowan forces a smile while remembering his mother's voice calling him. Rowan. Rowan. That's just about enough to get him through the rest of the proceeding. They weren't speaking up. She's telling us to leave already. She's looking at us, asking why we're still standing in the rain and wind, right? Yeah, she would definitely say that. Remember when we got caught in that storm and she said we were made of sugar? And then dragged us into that cafe where she made you eat a pastry bigger than your head? She always knew how to ruin a perfectly good soak. The hyena sighs, looking at the ground. I said what I needed to say. She already knew everything I had to tell her. I didn't leave anything out in these last weeks, as it should be. I'll talk to the other folk who are attending. We'll head to the restaurant in a bit. Take your time. Rowan moves to his cousin and her husband, who are looking on. He exchanges pleasantries, his voice and face on autopilot, going through some emotions he believes are appropriate for the circumstance. The guest eats hand him, the guest eats hand him an envelope with what is typical for Kazul, a bit of money to help with the funeral or with some costs here and there. It's not much, but something that's needed right now for the lost hyena. He takes each envelope, stuffing them all in the pocket of his jacket. By the time he receives the third one, he already forgot he had the first two in the left pocket. He takes them out, surprised that there's something hindering him. Once out, he looks at the crumpled up envelopes, maybe to laugh. But the confusion that crept into his mind had become clear as he looks again at the ground that's ripped apart towards the cold earth that is now the final bed of his beloved mother. He folds all the envelopes slowly and meticulously, aligning them so that they fit back neatly into his pocket again. He mumbles his thanks and invites everyone to a nearby restaurant to eat something. Most decline, as is the custom, to not overburden the bereaved with any additional costs. The only ones who join are Chobi and Cosmo. Rowan pulls out his phone, checking for a familiar name, the call on the way out of the cemetery. The rain seemed to have stopped for a brief moment, as if to let him be for just a moment. Hey, it's done. It's over. I am heading to the restaurant now. Oh, alright. I wish you the best. Thanks. We're all going to die. Rowan can't shake it off. No matter what any other distractions try to tell him. When did he leave the cemetery? How did the funeral even go? Did he say anything at the grave? There's no space for his own clear thoughts any longer. He gets himself moving again, having been stuck with the phone to his ear even long after the phone call ended. He doesn't even remember when it did. He makes his way to the restaurant, putting one foot in front of the other, begging himself to be able to just get there. The wet, cold ground tries its best to get him back, but Rowan's thoughts won't let him go. He looks at Chobi and Cosman, who are now ahead of him, talking about something. Maybe they're talking about him, maybe about his mother, maybe they're talking about anything else. Rowan can't blame them. They might need something else to think about. Right this second, a distant tune plays from another grave. Just a wooden flute, a few notes. Nothing special, but Rowan freezes. Was it real, or was it just in his head? There's a lot of anguish and pain, enough to fill the entire restaurant as they all walk in. So many bright lights everywhere, a warm fireplace, and lively discussions at many tables. Rowan notes how this place relies heavily on such events to happen so that it can stay in business. Typical Kazul, profiting off of folks' misery. And yet, why should this be a bad thing? Had there been no restaurant there, then what? Where would he go with everyone after the funeral? Anything can have a negative connotation if given one. It depends on how one chooses to view things. Rowan decides to break the cycle of gloominess by ordering plates of finger food for his friends. He finds the right words somehow, while his claws grip the colorful tablecloth in front of him. Yet it's still there. That parasitic sadness that clawed itself deep into his soul forces him to disassociate from it all. So what are we going to do tonight? How about some billiards? Well, billiards. Maybe darts too? That sounds like fun. Let's do that. I play a few times, but I'm not a big fan of it. It can definitely go through. I'm sure it's going to be great. The sturdy voice snaps his back into his body. Well, the sturdy voice snaps his back into his body, grounding him again with a promise of respite and a familiar pastime. He lets go of the tablecloth. While he would be regretful of the same holes he made with his claws, he looks at them indifferently. Who cares? His friends know that the pain is yet to come when the realization will kick in with the finality of it all. Every day will be progressively more difficult from now on, up to a point where one day it will balance itself out and things won't be as terrible as they are now. When that day will be is a different question altogether. Some folk move on as soon as their first meal's over, others take months or years, while some unlucky ones never manage to overcome the crushing feeling of loss, especially the loss of a mother. Billiards do sound nice though. Rowan's trying to convince himself that it does in fact make sense to go for a few games with his friends. Maybe one mention of an awkward encounter might even let him distance himself even more from his current mental black hole. I'm cool with billiards, but there's this guy who works there who keeps hitting on me via this app I am on. At first, it was okay, but he's not taking a hint. Last time I was there alone to play a game of darts to practice, he asked if I wanted a drink, and I said no because it's quite expensive. He brought me one and put his paws on both of my shoulders, telling me that I deserve it. It kind of freaked me out because, he was invading my space kind of hard. I know he's into me somehow, but it's still not okay to do that. Yeah, that's kind of creepy. But we can talk to him when we get the billiards table. You don't need to interact with him at all. Don't worry about it. We'll have a nice evening. And hey, that means you're popular, right? I guess I'm a little with that guy at least. Rowan sees through his eyes at different folk steering him as if he went on autopilot again. Just like when his father died 13 years ago. He was a kid back then, and all of it happened from one day to the next. His brother had gotten a call, and then there were tears. He was sat down on the couch in their small living room, and after he heard the news, he couldn't stop crying for hours. He remembers his mom's screams as he was beaten by his drunk dad over and over. Why did I even cry? He was just a kid, though. He couldn't do anything about it. He's older now, has faced it all before, and it didn't break him. It won't break him now either. Rowan looks around at the folk he's with and smiles to himself. He's barely chewing his food, and the effort he's been putting up is now taking its toll on him. It doesn't even have any taste except for the bitterness coming out of his stomach. He needs to pay for the food and somehow get himself to stand up. Just a few more minutes and it's over. Keep a smile on his face, and talking to his friends at the table has taken all the possible energy he has banked up. Not that it was much from the terrible sleep he had from last night, but that small bit is now all gone. If everyone is done, I'd like to leave. His friends notice a shift and get up from the table following Rowan. Toby's car isn't parked too far, and a short walk through the rain brings all the gloom back again onto Rowan. One more look back at the cemetery and then silence. Nobody's talking on the phone home, which only serves as more fodder for Rowan's unsteady feelings. All words lose their meaning, Rowan's friends not knowing what to say anymore. There will be silence sooner or later. Unfortunately for the hyena, it's going to be sooner. They reach Toby's place, where Rowan's been staying at since yesterday out of fear of being alone and sprawling. It was Toby who offered Rowan the possibility of staying with him during these tough times. Cosman has been staying at Rowan's place to not have to spend on a hotel. Money is always tight and it's Kozul too. Everything's expensive, all because of one fancy car manufacturer. You think the city should be rich, but instead it's riddled with petty crime, drunks, and drugs. Do you want to eat something, or would you like some tea? I never said no to tea. I have a few you can pick out from. I don't think I have plum, though. That's fine. Every evening has set in and the dark skies stood up earlier than they normally would. It's supposed to be a warm season, yet the cold wind and the constant rain say otherwise. Rowan's looking at the tea kettle, waiting patiently for the cup of tea while the intrusive thoughts keep growing. Preparing tea used to be something his mother always liked to do. The thoughts keep coming, but this time Toby realizes the danger of the silent turmoil that has already taken over Rowan's head. He couldn't say a word at the funeral, but now at home in his own safe environment he knows he needs to do something. Oh wow, look at that ancient thing. What exactly? This. The beaver grabs a wooden flute from a shelf that blended in with the rest of Toby's collection. I've never told anyone this, but when I was a kid I started playing the flute. Really? Never pegged you for a musician. I wouldn't call myself that. Far from it. But I did play for 3 years. 3 years, that's something. Can you still play? Oh, not really. Come on. I'm sure you can't forget all of it, even if it's been 20 years. It really has been about 20 years. I'll give her a go for old time's sake. That's the spirit. Don't expect anything fancy. I can barely remember one song. But let me pour you the tea first. Rowan's tail starts swaying back and forth, signaling his growing excitement. Toby never mentioned playing the flute since they've known each other. The flute on the shelf in the back did grab Rowan's attention once, but he thought it was just another ornament in Toby's home, which has plenty everywhere from various holidays. You're free to laugh if I mess up. I'm warning you, I'm not good. Just play already. This one's from Lunium with a Kozul twist. The beaver grabs the flute as if it's a long-lost artifact. He places his fingers on each of the holes, checking to see if he's covered them properly. There's a hint of embarrassment in Toby's movements, but also a sense of childish joy. His whiskers give a short treble right before the first note. The stiff pose the beaver has does reveal a certain anxiety about his playing in front of his friend, but overall, he's doing a great job for someone who has not played in almost 20 years. Toby's playing turns out to be impressive as Rowan quickly notices. The Lunium tune from Rowan's far-away hometown embraces the hyena in an instant. And there it is. I ruined it. Rowan grabs his cup of tea tightly, spilling a bit on the table. While the song didn't end gracefully, it still put a smile on the gloomy hyena. Toby's end reaction had a different effect altogether. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. I get really self-conscious about this stuff. Rowan starts clapping at the performance as his mouth curls up into a big smile, pushing the tears back down. He can still hear his mother humming a similar song in the morning when she was preparing Rowan's lunch for school. even on days when they barely had enough to eat themselves. She always made sure he never went hungry, regardless of whether she did. That was a wonderful performance. You're a natural. Oh, come on. It was nothing. It's just a wooden one, made for kids. You're really downplaying your own skill. Why did you stop playing? I shouldn't ever make noise in the living room or in their room with the door closed. Your dad really is a moron, isn't he? Yeah. My mom isn't any better either. She definitely isn't like my dad, but it might even be a silly thing playing the flute. It isn't. She could have stood up for me and my brother a little more. That's all I'm saying. You couldn't make a career out of this illudium. It's a respectable choice. Not here, though. Wooden flutes are for kids. Oh, Lord of Fur. I turned on the yap machine. Sorry. Here I am going on and on about when you... It's fine. Life goes on. The hyena voice lowers back again into the darkness that surrounds him. This time, Chubby doesn't need any more signs. How about another song? I feel my fingers itching for some practice. I would like that a lot. Thank you for everything. We're family, aren't we? Always. Always. Once the song is over, Robert and Chubby pick up Wasman and they head out to the Billiards place. A lot of folk for a weekday. Too many. Rowan's anxiety goes up yet another point closer to his limit. So many unknown folk all together is never a good sign for an introverted hyena. But there's a sturdy voice around to chase all the ugly feelings away. Let's play the first one, Rowan. I'll watch. It might help me get a better idea of how to play. Sure. You want the break? Yeah, let's put some power into it. A heartbreak, and then the game flows nicely, but Rowan doesn't care as much as he usually does. His passion for the game doesn't show at all. His unusual steady, long-range shots are replaced by awkward misses and bad hits that shadow his usual form. While this is typically a balanced game, today is of course not one of those times. Your game. Well played. Chubby, do you want to try? We'll give you pointers on how to play. I'll give it a go, sir. Do you want to try to break? You gotta blast it through. We gotta blast it though. You can do it. I think I should stick to just doing the easy stuff. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Go for it. The beaver looks at the table as if he's at a job interview. His clumsy break elicits an annoyed breath at the missed shot, looking up to his friends as if expecting some sort of snarky remark. Good try. You'll get the hang of it soon enough. Just keep at it. The game starts while Rowan looks on. His stomach acid is flaring up again from the imagined pressure around him, so he decides to get some water. He looks at the flickering light above, thinking how he can't do anything about it. Maybe he could poke it with his cue to see if it stops, but the staff will accuse him of property destruction and demand cash on the spot. The waitress brings the water, and he's fumbling through his pockets to find a few coins. Always have coins in your pockets, you never know. His mother's voice rings true once again. card payment doesn't work here. Never worked here. One Kazul's many mysteries. Rowan looks at the glass of water, moving it up, staring at the flickering light. Maybe it would look better through a glass of something with more color. It would be in poor taste to numb out the feelings with alcohol, not that having beer would do him any favors with his current predicament. And in the very end, what would it say about him if he would drown out the noise by getting drunk? What would his mother think about his endeavor? Your stance is a bit off. Maybe try the bridge both Cosman and I use. Well, maybe try the bridge both Cosman and I use. It's very stable, and put your feet more apart. Your whole body needs stability, not just your arms and paws. I'm trying. It's not that easy for a beginner. It kind of throws me off, like this appears first and this appears afterwards. Like if I'm just reading pretty fast, I might miss this part here. You don't feel like you're a beginner. Your socks are good, you just lack the basics. If it hurts your paw at first, I know it hurts your paw at first, but it's going to get a lot better as you practice more. Wow, that's like instant improvement, right? Try planting your feet on the ground better. Rowan poses for Chobi, showing him how he prepares for his shots. The mood's starting to shift. The Billiards cafe lights brighten the room just enough to get Rowan to stabilize. His friends are there too, always tagging him in, asking him about angles, ball rotation, kickbacks. The hyena isn't getting any chances to let the hurt. The hyena isn't getting any chances to let the hurt sink in just yet. The evening keeps on going well enough considering how it looked like a few hours ago. More games, a few jokes, and a relaxed ride. Rowan wishes Chubby good night as he enters the small shrine the beaver set up a day ago. The picture of Rowan and his mother on the table smiles at him. He sits down on a chair and lights a scented candle, looking at the picture. The pine smell fills the small room, so he cracks open the small window behind him. He looks at the flickering light, and a random memory releases itself onto him without warning. That time he worked 2 jobs to afford his first game console when all the other kids had one. He worked hard enough at school, she said, dark circles under her eyes but pride in her voice. You deserve something that makes you happy too. His phone's buzzing. Yet another call from someone back in Lundium. He looks at the name, then puts the phone back down. Hasn't even said hello in years and now calls me. It's trembling on the table in front of him. Rowan grabs it, turning it off. The picture's still smiling. He closes the window and blows out the candle, making his way to the guest room. They're thinking of me today, but they'll forget about me tomorrow. But as the day comes to an end, Rowan's dark thoughts start gathering as soon as he closes the door to the spare bedroom. It feels cold inside, although the heater's pointing to enough degrees on its scale. Rowan stares blankly around the room, touching things, finally settling near the cold window. Then the tears start once he looks out in the distance. The world is moving on without his mother. All of it is as uncaring as the disease that stole her away. All of it unwilling to acknowledge her absence while being indifferent to his presence. The feeling of being truly alone has never had such a warping dimension in Rowan's life. Take care that you don't end up alone like me. His mother often warned him about his tendency to isolate himself. She had Rowan to hold her paw at the very end, but he knew what she really meant. All her life she tried to find someone, but ended up with some of the most dreadful creatures one could imagine. His thoughts drift back to the cold room, the soft clicking of the rain on the window. The emptiness digs in just as deep as his claws do from the shallow hug he's given himself. He's thinking of his friends who are sleeping. Did they spare a thought for him right before drifting off? Or did they push all of it away so they would escape the prison he can't? Rowan covers his paws with his tail, crouching on the cool floor. He's humming to himself his mother's favorite song. He grabs his muzzle with both paws when a loud cry escapes him. He turns to the distant bed, crawling under the soft blankets his clothes still on. But the day is only about her, and Rowan doesn't know how to keep breathing without her in the world. The true test starts now once the night begins, and with it the terrors that follow his final whisper of this fateful day. We're all going to die. I might decide to just stop right here. This is chapter 2. Well, that was a dark story. So there's still more, but his mother died and he's coming to terms with it. It's very depressing for him to lose his mother. So he's always very close to his mother, and for him to lose his mother to the disease, it's taken a toll on him. Now, him playing games with his friends, it did take the pain off of him a little bit, but as soon as he got home, and there was nothing for him to do, that's when the pain of his mother dying affected him again. So everything is very depressing. His mother dying, and everybody got somber looks on their faces, and we don't really see any smiling. I don't know what the beaver, he might have smiled once, I guess, but even that was kind of like a somber smile, and everything's just black and gray, or different shades of gray, and it's a depressing story. So I like it so far. So I'm going to continue with it next time. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.